Welcome back to Crypto Daily Updates. In today's video, we are highlighting the Pi Network roadmap. Pi Network is unique in our technological and ecosystem design, as well as the significance of our community input in development. This uniqueness is best served by a thoughtful and iterative approach that allows for community feedback, testing of products, features, and user experience, and phases defined by milestones. There are three main phases to our development: 1 beta, 2 testnet, and 3 mainnet. Phase 1, beta. In December 2018, we publicly launched our mobile app on the iOS App Store as an alpha prototype that onboarded the initial pioneers. On Pi Day, March 14, 2019, the original Pi whitepaper was published, marking the official launch of the Pi Network. At this stage, our app allowed pioneers to mine Pi by contributing to the growth and security of the future Pi blockchain, as the eventual goal was to launch the mainnet and build an ecosystem around the Pi platform. The Pi app running on the centralized Pi server enabled mobile phone users pioneers to contribute their security circles that, in aggregate, built the trust graph required by the consensus algorithm of the Pi blockchain, and in return, the pioneers received mining rewards. Furthermore, the centralized phase allowed the network to grow, the community to form, and the Pi token to be accessible and widely distributed. This phase also allowed for the iteration of many technical features and pioneer experience by leveraging community input throughout the development process. The following major accomplishments were made during the beta phase. The Pi Network mobile app was listed and accessible through the iOS App Store and Google Play Store. Pi Network grew from 0 to over 3.5 million engaged pioneers. The Pi Network community actively engaged with the project through the app home screen interactions and chat app. Pi Network reached 233 countries and regions around the world. Phase 2, Testnet. This phase started on March 14, 2020, marking another critical preparation to the transition to a decentralized blockchain alive testnet with distributed nodes from all over the world. Pi Network's node software enabled individual computers to support running the Pi testnet using TestPi. TestPi was available only for the purpose of testing and has no relation to pioneers. Account balances on the Pi app. The Pi testnet has reached over 10,000 fully functional community nodes and over 100,000 daily active nodes on the waiting list, and as explained in a later section, will continue to exist for testing purposes in the mainnet phase. Pi testnet allows for the testing of connectivity, performance, security, and scalability of the blockchain, and allows Pi apps developers to develop the Pi apps before they can deploy their app on the mainnet. During the testnet phase, 3 major strategies were adopted: 1 decentralization through testnet nodes, 2 growth through the main Pi app for mobile mining, and 3 utility creation through the Pi apps platform on the Pi browser. The testnet ran in parallel with the Pi mobile mining app from phase 1 and enabled decentralized community nodes to get online and ready for the mainnet. Specifically, the testnet nodes helped with the assessment of the blockchain's performance, security, and scalability. It also helped Pi app developers test their apps against the Pi blockchain. At the same time, the Pi mobile mining app continued to onboard millions of pioneers, building the community and contributing to the security of the blockchain. The Pi browser, along with the Pi SDK, enabled the community to create utilities and develop the Pi ecosystem. The following major accomplishments were made during the testnet phase. Many versions of the node software were released. The Pi platform was released along with key ingredients of our ecosystem: infrastructure, wallet, browser, brainstorm, and developer tools. Pilot version of the KYC app was introduced on the Pi browser. The project ran its first ever worldwide online hackathon, with thousands of participants from within the pioneer community. Pi Network grew to over 30 million engaged pioneers, and from 0 to over 10,000 fully functional community nodes and over 100,000 daily active nodes on the waiting list. Pi Network reached almost all countries and regions in the world. Phase 3, Mainnet. In December 2021, the mainnet of the Pi blockchain will go live. The migration of pioneer balances from their phone account to the mainnet starts during this period. KYC authentication of a pioneer precedes their balance migration to the mainnet, in order to allow for sufficient time for millions of pioneers to successfully complete their KYC verification, create utilities in the Pi ecosystem, and continue to iterate on our technology and ecosystem design. The mainnet will have 2 periods. At first, firewalled mainnet, i.e., the enclosed network, and then open mainnet, i.e., the open network. This period will begin in December 2021. The enclosed network. This period will begin in December 2021. The enclosed network period means that the mainnet is live but with a firewall that prevents any unwanted external connectivity. Pioneers will be able to take time to KYC and migrate their Pi to the live mainnet blockchain. Any balance migrated to the mainnet can be used by the choice of the pioneer to purchase goods and services in Pi apps, transfer to other pioneers, or get locked up for a duration of time for a higher mining rate. KYC pioneers will be able to use their Pi on the mainnet freely in an enclosed environment within Pi network. However, this period will not allow connectivity between the Pi blockchain and other blockchains. Advantages of the two-period approach to mainnet. There are multiple advantages to having an intermediate, enclosed period to ramp up to the fully open mainnet. This approach allows time for millions of pioneers worldwide to pass KYC, building and deploying more Pi apps and allowing more utilities to be created and used, transitioning Pi apps deployed on the testnet to the mainnet, and iterating on any modifications and adjustments to the mainnet and the ecosystem before the open network. The enclosed network period allows time for millions of pioneers to KYC and migrate their Pi to the mainnet. Only a small fraction of pioneers have been able to complete their KYC around the launch of the mainnet. Over the coming months, we will continue to roll out the KYC solution to more pioneers and help them complete their KYC. If we move directly from testnet to open network, this would mean that the pioneers who were able to KYC before others would have Pi available for use outside of the Pi platform, while the pioneers still waiting to complete their KYC would not yet have this privilege. The speed at which pioneers all over the world are able to complete their KYC will depend on the speed at which each local community provides the KYC validator crowd workforce, as well as the speed at which individual pioneers participate in the KYC. Having the enclosed network period gives time for millions of pioneers to complete their KYC and transfer their Pi to the mainnet. This way, all the pioneers who are willing and able to complete their KYC in a reasonable period of time get to use their Pi outside of the Pi platform at once. Given that external connectivity between the Pi blockchain and other blockchains or systems is not allowed during the enclosed network period, this further helps pioneers focus on transitioning into mainnet without any influences external to the Pi blockchain. This period will also help the community focus on creating utilities and bootstrapping the ecosystem without any external distractions, consistent with the vision of the Pi network to enable a utility-based ecosystem. This allows apps to deploy on mainnet and create utilities for pioneers. Pi apps will be able to switch from testnet to mainnet to production mode for real Pi transactions. At this time, KYCED pioneers will be able to spend their Pi on Pi apps, boosting utilities, creation and bootstrapping the Pi ecosystem before the open network. This gradual and deliberate ramp to open network will help the apps, as well as the Pi network, to uncover and resolve any glitches in the market and the technology. Thus, the enclosed network period is in line with Pi's vision of a utility-based ecosystem and its iterative philosophy. Moreover, the enclosed network will allow the mainnet to run with production data and real Pi, which differs from testnet. Data gathered during the enclosed network will help calibrate and tweak any configurations and formula, if necessary, to ensure a stable and successful open network. The enclosed network will support the economic activities and growth of the Pi ecosystem. Thus, pioneer-to-pioneer transactions are possible through the Pi wallet, as KY said. Pioneers will be able to use the Pi wallet to transact in Pi. Pioneers can also spend Pi in Pi apps on the Pi browser, which can access the mainnet through the Pi apps SDK and the Pi blockchain API. During the enclosed network period, an app on the Pi browser can only use the Pi blockchain. AP is whitelisted by the firewall to interact with the mainnet. The following uses of pioneer-to-pioneer, pioneer-to-app, and app-to-pioneer transactions will be allowed. Exchange of Pi for goods and services through Pi apps. Transfer of Pi between pioneers for goods and services. The following uses will be prohibited. Exchange of Pi for fiat currency. Exchange of Pi for other cryptocurrencies. Transfer for Pi for a future promise of fiat or other cryptocurrencies. We will enforce the above restrictions by adding a firewall to the mainnet and by exclusively running the mainnet nodes for this interim period. Community nodes will continue to run on the testnet in the enclosed network period, We will continue to implement interface and other changes to the nodes in preparation for the open network period where the community nodes will be able to run on the mainnet. The restrictions of the network to keep it enclosed will be relaxed as it reaches the next period open network, the open network period, depending on the maturity of the enclosed network ecosystem and the progress of the KYC. This period may begin on Pi Day March 14, 2022, Pi Day June 28, 2022, or later. The open network period means that the firewall in the enclosed network period will be removed, allowing any external connectivity, for example, to other networks, wallets, and anyone who wants to connect to Pi mainnet. API calls will not be firewalled, and pioneers will be able to run their own Pi nodes and API services. Pioneers will have connectivity with other blockchains. Community nodes can also run the mainnet. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Crypto Daily Updates for more updates on Pi Network. What's your answer to the question on the screen?